I want to welcome you to the 𝗖𝗹𝗹 approach. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video. Fortunately, the school has been extremely busy, and I'm sorry about the delay, but I've been getting a lot of requests for more teaching videos, and I'm actually quite excited to pass on this information and get another video out to you all. I do so appreciate all of the support, all of the emails. You know, we are now teaching in over 14 different countries. The United States has been packed. So, you know, the greatest thing about the technique is that it's now getting out to everybody, you know, and I'm not feeling so much like a lot of the actors that I encounter are feeling like they're sort of at the mercy now of their local drama coach. Because of the advent of Skype, they are able to study from other countries and other states, and it's not a problem at all. I wanted to tap into a couple of questions that I've been getting lately, whether it be from just phone calls or emails. One of the things that people have been asking me about is casting. How do we figure out what kinds of parts we should go out for? One of the greatest things that I learned from my mentor, Don Richardson, was all about casting and sort of knowing what exactly is your casting type. It's so important to know this because, you know, you may audition for something and not get the role, and then a lot of actors may beat themselves up over this unnecessarily. You know, it's not to say that if you are auditioning for a leading man part and you look kind of like a character guy, it's not to say that you can't play that role. It's just simply that when you walk in the room, you may not even be a character, but people interpret that. We have one student in our class who comes to mind, and when you look at him, he's funny looking, and there's really nothing he can do about it. And one of the things we've been working on lately is because he's so funny, frequently he forgets that. He's kind of got funny features and doesn't have a lot of hair, and you know, he just kind of has a funny cartoonish look, and you know, he's been booking jobs lately, and I think one of the reasons, aside from him being a very talented person, is that he's understood that just by being himself, he's funny. So his big mistake was that he seemed to kind of make it something, try to make it more funny and not relying on his own look. On the other side, we have somebody who looks like a leading man or a leading lady, and they're going out to sort of play these sort of character-y parts. And listen, Dustin Hoffman, for example, Don even talked about this. You know, in the beginning of his career, he would audition for the parts that he looked appropriate for. And then after you become a success, after you have a fan base, then at that point you can go ahead and audition and probably book any kind of part you want. But if you understand your casting type at the beginning of the process, that's what you can make money at. That's what you can start booking immediately. How do we know what our casting type is? Well, you got to go to somebody you trust. I was fortunate enough to have Don Richardson, who taught me all about casting. My students come to me for that very reason. What kinds of parts should I audition for? So, you know, when you can always talk to your friends or people that you meet. What do you think when I walk into the room? Do you think that I'm kind of a funny guy? Do you think that I'm kind of a leading man, you know, romantic, you know, kind of guy that's going to swoop the ladies off of their feet? Or am I the best friend? How do you see me? And it's not even that you're that kind of a person. It's merely when you walk in the room and there's nothing that you can do about it. And embrace that. We have so many people who come to Los Angeles and they are scared to just be who they are. That's why there's so much plastic surgery. And you know, most of the times when you see the plastic surgery, at least for the people that I've noticed and you can notice, they were frequently kind of funny looking, and they try to make themselves look really, really, really beautiful. We all know, we all know you had the surgery. Look, I'm all about you being happy and going ahead and making sure that you love the way you feel, you love the way you look, but embrace who you are. So that's the first thing I wanted to touch on, was casting. Another email that I've been getting a lot lately, or I will get phone calls, and people will call me and they'll say, listen, you know, I'm in my mid-30s and I've never acted before. Is it too late? Should I even try this? You know, and that's a really dangerous question to ask me. First of all, I don't know you. And second of all, you know, who's to say? You know, let's look at the options. Let's assume that somebody was to say to you, you know what, it is too late for you. And so what's the option? Don't do it. And so 10 years from now, you're filled with regret, wishing you would have given it a shot. On the other hand, we have some actors who come out here, they have the right look, they're in their 30s, they're talented, and all the stars align, and they book the job, having no credits. So it's, you know, if nobody has a crystal ball, nobody can tell you whether or not you're going to be able to make it or not. But what I can tell you is being able to seize the opportunity, being able to come through when those opportunities come is the key. That's what the training is for. You know, why do we train? It's like going to the gym. It's working out so that when the audition comes, you're ready. And what does ready mean? It doesn't even mean that you're just good or you're just getting through it. It means knocking out of the park and hitting a home run. Now, especially if you're dealing with somebody, if I'm coaching somebody who doesn't have a lot of credits, I mean, think about this. If you're in your mid-30s and you're in Hollywood and you're auditioning against another guy who's in his mid-30s who's got 10 pages of credits, and I saw him on CSI last night. You're auditioning against that guy. So why are they going to hire you? Well, all you got is your acting. That's it. So you may as well put in the time, put in the energy, and, you know, look, we can't cut corners. As much as, listen, I was a corner cutter. I always wanted to cut corners. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about acting is you can't get away with it. No matter how much I try, I always wanted to kind of skip around, you know, maybe I don't have to do this. And then, of course, I would go and put the scene up and Don would rip me apart. So, you know, listen, there's no easy road. And my philosophy has always been about not living with any regret. Giving it a shot so that you can sleep at night knowing that you did everything you could to accomplish whatever your dream may be. I was recently watching a show, and it was a multi-millionaire who was being interviewed. And one of the things he said that I thought that just struck me was he said, you know, being a success is 20% what you're given and 80% what you do with it. What you turn that 20% into. So it's 80% what you do with what you're given that can create a success, because you have a lot of people who will come to LA and they'll be like, you know what, I don't have a family member in the business, you know, I don't know anybody. They come up with 10,000 different excuses as to, you know, why they're not going to make it. Well, what does the champion do? The champion basically says, I really don't care. I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to give it a shot. So, those two issues are the two that I've been encountering the most lately with regards to casting and with regards to making sure that we don't live with any regret, giving it a shot. Okay. Another topic that I've been getting emails about. And, you know, keep in mind, a lot of what I'm talking about right now is not directly related. You guys have all seen my videos, I assume. And we talk in those videos about emotion. We talk about objective. Today, I'm talking a little bit more about the mindset of an actor and where we need to be. I would say one of the number one things that I encounter when teaching actors is they want things to be perfect. They want it to be perfect. And trying to make it perfect is the problem. And once we grasp that, once we understand that the concept of trying to give the perfect performance is the very problem. You see, if you look at the greatest actors, they somehow dig deep, and they have such a huge amount of courage that they're willing to take a chance and go for it. Now, what does go for it mean? Go for it doesn't mean getting up there and being big and doing stuff. That actually comes from insecurity, because when we're big and we're doing stuff, it's coming from a place of, hey, I don't know if I'm good enough to just stand here and be good. I got to do something to dazzle you. And the very thing you're doing to impress the casting director is the very thing that's ruining it. Having the faith, having the courage to know that you've done all of the work, you've come to class, and now it's time to just sort of take the risk and go for it without improving your performance. Once we can do that, that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying it doesn't have to be perfect. My goal when I act is not telling myself, hey, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be good. What I tell myself before I perform is, you know what? I may be horrible. They may hate me. I may suck. And embrace the idea that you may blow it. And once we can actually look directly into the demon and embrace that feeling, then you're free, because you got nothing to lose anymore. A lot of actors, they want it to be perfect, and the problem is they get into this zone. They walk into the audition, their mindset is clear, they lit their incense, they walked around their car 3 times as a ritual before they walk in. They said all of the things that they needed to say, and as soon as they get in there, they feel like they're ready, and the casting director says, hello, whenever you're ready, and they look at the casting director, and the casting director gives them a look, not one they anticipated, and it messes their whole mind up, and they blow it. Now, why does that happen? The reason that's happening is because the actor is going for a perfect zone when they walk in there. This is why when you come to my school, I'm telling my students, don't rehearse in a comfortable environment. Now, why would I say that? Why would I say don't rehearse in a place that's comfortable? Don't light a candle and incense and close all the windows. Don't do that. Now, why am I telling you this? Obviously, it's more comfortable to do it that way. What I'm telling my students to do, what am I telling my students to do? I'm telling them to open a window. Turn the television on a little bit so it's annoying. Get yourself uncomfortable. Because when you audition, when you work as an actor, you're never going to be comfortable. So why in the world would we prepare that way? And so, in addition to the acting tools, what I'm talking about is working out your brain. Almost doing a mental brain exercise to prepare for your auditions and when you work. Now, these were the tools, and I've talked about Dr. 𝗖𝗹𝗹 in my videos before, but these were the tools that were given to me by her. And, that's something that I completely had to learn. I was coming from a place of wanting things to be perfect, and that was what was killing my work, and it was killing the fun. And once I embraced the idea that, hey, I'm ready to not be perfect, I'm embracing that feeling, there was a tremendous amount of freedom in that. Now, it's not easy. It's a hard thing to do, to basically really, really be okay with blowing it. Look, I'm not an idiot. I'm not excited to go blow it in a performance. But on the other hand, I'm not pushing thoughts away to kind of make sure I'm in the right frame of mind to perform. And this ability is not something that you just, for many people, it's not something you just have. Look, there are some people who can just do that. I wasn't one of them. I had to learn it. A lot of the actors I meet, they also have to learn it. So, being able to perform and come through under pressure is not something that I just was able to do. It required a tremendous amount of training. So when you're practicing your lines at home, when you're rehearsing your scenes with your buddy, remember this. When you're practicing, if you find yourself trying to make the space safe, understand that you're doing the very thing that's hurting you. If you can learn how to embrace the discomfort and create scenarios that bother you and then perform, when you get to that audition and you're thrown by that casting director who didn't give you the right look, or their cell phone rings, or your cell phone rings, that you've already practiced working around distractions and can come through when they happen. It's not a question of if they're going to happen. They are going to happen. So we have to plan for them. The last thing that I wanted to talk about in this video was something I wanted to sort of bring up with regards to hard work. I can't tell you how many actors have come to me and they have said, do I really have to do a lot of scenes in class? Do I really have to do it? No, you don't. You don't have to do it. But grasping the idea that acting is an art that's built on muscle memory. Again, it's, as Don Richardson even said, it's built around the same principles as being an athlete. We have our two steps to acting. We have our preparation, and then we have our execution. The preparing is when we go to class and we rehearse it, we practice it, we do our discomfort exercises I was telling you about, and then the executing is when we just let go and trust the work. Well, listen, how can we possibly execute if we don't prepare? Going to acting class is akin to going to the gym and working out. And the principle that I pulled from Dr. 𝗖𝗹𝗹 was how we function should have little or nothing to do with how we feel. How we function should have little or nothing to do with how we feel. That's a pretty intense idea, because most people that I've met, if they don't feel like doing it, they don't do it. Now, what if we were able to sort of disassociate from that concept and we said, listen, it doesn't matter what I feel like, I'm going to do it anyway. If I'm tired, I do it. If I didn't get enough sleep last night and I want to just relax, I do it. Having the urge to come home and watch television, resisting the urge, and doing your training. All of these little baby steps are going to help you with this ability to kind of coming back to what I was talking about a moment ago, which is coming through when you don't feel right. Because look, if I don't feel like doing something and I make myself do it anyway, at first it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird. So what do I do when I feel weird like that, when I'm doing something, when I don't feel like it? Well, we could say that a lot of the times when that happens, what we're actually feeling is a sense of anxiety. That anxiety that we're feeling from not having control. That anxiety from feeling the discomfort of doing something that we didn't plan on doing. So the beautiful thing about anxiety is if we learn how to embrace it, if we let it live in our body, after a while, if you really take it on, it will get worse for a little while, but eventually your body gets tired of being anxious and it won't bother you as much anymore. It's kind of like if you were a dancer and you sprained your ankle and you had to perform that night anyway. So at first your ankle's going to bother you. But isn't it funny that 10 minutes into the performance, frequently the dancer forgets she or he even has a sprained ankle. Why is that? Our body learns how to work around things. And if you've noticed, we're at a new space, by the way, so I want to introduce you to our new studio. In conclusion, today's lesson has been not so much about specific acting tools. Today's lesson has been more about building a foundation and making sure that that foundation is solid to put your acting training on top of. For me, listen, until the truth of the matter is, until I worked this specific issue out with being able to come through under pressure, being able to come through when I don't feel like it, being able to come through when a casting director gives me the wrong look and the pressure is on for a fourth callback, being able to come through under those scenarios, it doesn't matter if you have great acting tools, if you can't do that. And that's what was happening to me for a while. No matter how great Don Richardson's tools were, if my brain was not in the right space, it was like building a house on a place that's about to have an earthquake. So think about some of the things that we talked about today with regards to feeling and functioning, with regards to what you do with what you've got, what you're given, and not settling. You know, a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, listen, I live in Wisconsin. What do I do? We have Skype lessons. You can work with me. You can work with one of our teachers. You're not at the mercy of having to stay in your little community theater space in the back of somebody's garage on, Thursday night. What I'm trying to do is disassociate feeling and functioning and learning how to embrace our fears. Learning how to take on what we're scared of, and then from there, we put our acting tools. Thank you so much for your support, your emails, your belief in the Heller approach technique, your belief in me and my school. I really do appreciate all the thousands and thousands of subscribers and Facebook fans and all of those people that make the school what it is today. We will continue to send you all videos. My name is Brad Heller. If you haven't, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Heller Approach. And until next time, keep acting.